tough you need to be. Of course, the lack of opportunities and the constant rejection and the fierce competition can take its toll, but because a life devoted to telling stories and creating art is an endeavor filled with so much solitude, you end up spending a great deal of your time battling the voices in your own head, telling you what you do isn't meaningful or a real profession. Now, when I first got out of theater school, it was a very exciting time. I was about to finally begin a dream I'd had since I was 11 years old, to be a storyteller. And I was lucky enough to be signed by a great agent, which allowed me to get into rooms in front of major casting directors for big plays and TV shows and commercials and feature films. I have to say, to be a young actor in New York City was pretty exciting. But during this time, I was also going through a lot of personal challenges. I had just left a school where I felt very comfortable. I was struggling in my personal relationships because, to be quite honest with you, I was so focused on myself, I really failed to be there for the people who needed me most. And I just felt completely in over my head, unsure of how to navigate this new and very confusing world. I looked everywhere for help. And like all of you, at one point in life or another, I needed a compass, a blueprint, a North Star to show the way. But all I could find were places to get the best headshots or ways I could impress a casting director. There was almost nothing on developing the actor's mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. How can there not be more support for these highly sensitive people in the most competitive industry on the planet? I remember thinking to myself. So I decided to set out on a new path and try to answer that very question. And I knew it was something others also wanted to know, because as I got older, many of my younger actor friends started asking for advice. They wanted to know what lessons I learned in all my years as an actor, as a writer, as a filmmaker, as a community outreach volunteer, and traveler. All roles that helped shape a very unique take on the business, but far more importantly, how to live a well-rounded life offstage that would enrich the quality of the work on it. And in time, the mission became to help other actors and artists find ways to empower themselves in an industry that too often feels disempowering. Eventually, I came up with 6 principles that I hope will help you on your journey, regardless of your passion or pursuit. Now, number 1 was to keep learning. Now, for years, I read nothing but plays and scripts. I learned a ton about great storytelling. But if you asked me what was going on in the world, I'd probably give you the same look the woman in the coffee shop gave me, right? I was a one-dimensional person. But now, I realize the importance of knowing a little about a lot. I read everything I could get my hands on about history, philosophy, psychology, science, leadership, and finance. I no longer pored over just the words of Shakespeare and Odets, but now turned to Emerson and Plato. I made a greater effort to diversify my knowledge and to broaden my understanding of the world. Because with each discovery about a new subject comes a big window to someone else's world, making you realize how limited yours may have been. And in time, with the more you learn, you will find yourself slowly developing into a person who refuses to be defined by just one thing. Now, for me, acting was what I did, but it was no longer who I was. Number 2 was travel. Now, I'd always been very lucky when it came to travel, but now I use it as a way to infuse new perspective into my life. And though I'd been lucky to see much of the world, I discovered I didn't always have to go very far to see or to learn something new. For example, you don't need your passport to hop on the 2 train and wander the Botanic Gardens in Brooklyn or to catch the bus to City Island. Each place, whether near or far, offers you a chance to meet new people and challenge the assumptions you have about them. Seeing a new world allows you to step out of your own, a place riddled with misunderstandings and limited thinking. But I tell you, the greatest lesson I learned was I didn't have all the time in the world to see and to do all the things I said I wanted to. So it was important to just begin. Whenever possible, develop and follow your sense of curiosity, and always protect your inner tourist.